Hello, I'm Liam Jenkins and welcome to highlights of the 2011 Formula SimRacing World Championship. Round 9 is a British Grand Prix taking place at the Silverstone circuit and often referred to as the home of British racing. The 5.9km long track features a wide variety of corners, long straights and several overtaking opportunities. There were some interesting developments in the driver lineup for round 9. Dennis Hurr has made the surprise move to the McCourt Racing team, while Blair Disley has been dropped by Too Fast For You and is now driving for ATR Silverline. And a brand new team, Ward F1, will make their debut here at their home Grand Prix. To the qualifying results, and it was Twister driver a.k.a. who achieved pole position for the second time this season, just ahead of David Greco in second. Jaakko Miekkinen set the third fastest time, and Marco Conti didn't disappoint his new team, qualifying in fourth for Too Fast For You. Despite moving to a new team, Blair Disley produced a strong result to take 5th place, and that Rex Grand Prix's new driver Cyril Vermeulen achieved his best qualifying performance in 6th. More surprises came with Jim Parizis qualifying in 7th and Dimitri de Matos in 8th in just his 3rd World Championship appearance. Morgan Moran would start in 9th ahead of Dennis Hurl in 10th, and Mikko Puumalainen missed out on the top 10 ahead of Fredrik Nilsson and Patrick de Wit. Bono Kuijs was handed a back of the grid penalty after he was found to have breached the qualifying rules during the previous round at Canada. To the race start, and David Greco had a great launch off the line, beating Kirchhoff to the first corner. Contact was made and Kirchhoff ran wide, dropping him down into 4th place. Out of Beckett's, both Conti and Vermeulen put their foot down too quickly and lost control. Vermeulen span off the track, while Conti made it back on, only losing a few seconds. Down into Stowe, there was a massive drivers side by side in the midfield. Nilsson passed Puumalainen, while Moran and Conti unfortunately made contact with both drivers running onto the grass. An uncharacteristic mistake from Saxon saw the Finn roll his car into club, with newcomer Luca Peklaj being lucky to avoid contact. Meanwhile, Bono Kuijs had cleanly made his way up through the first lap chaos into 10th. Kuijs, de Wit and Puumalainen all entered Brooklands side by side, with Puumalainen ultimately losing out, skipping across the curb and dropping into 13th. By lap 4, Kuijs was already on the tail of 8th place Nilsson, and despite some highly aggressive defence from the Twister driver, Kuijs then made the pass into Brooklands look dead easy. Conversely, Kuijs' teammate Jaakko Miekkinen had no answer to Kirchhoff's higher top speed, with the Twister driver easily making the pass through Stowe. It was apparent that Miekkinen had some minor damage to his front wing after the first lap, but the Finn continued to set a strong pace. Setting the quickest pace, it didn't take long for Aksel Kirchhoff to catch David Greco, and surprisingly the Italian put up very little of a fight for the top spot, with Kirchhoff easily making the overtake for the race lead. Miekkinen was still in 3rd, but had his hands full trying to keep Blair Disley behind him. Dimitri de Matos and Jim Parizis were running higher than they had ever run before, in 5th and 6th respectively. But with Bono Kuijs continuing his charge up the field, there was little they could do to fend off the reigning world champion. Just behind, Fredrik Nilsson challenged Dennis Hurl through Stowe, and with better stopping power, the Swede then outbroke Hurl to take 8th place. After a strong comeback at Canada, Lee Morris was clearly not enjoying his race around the Silverstone track, locking his brakes on lap 8 and dropping down into 13th behind Puumalainen and Conti. Puumalainen then caught Patrick de Wit in 10th and eventually made a pass through Stowe. Marco Conti however struggled to find a way around the faster than speed car. Conti was clearly faster through the arena section and made several passing attempts through Brooklands, but de Wit initially managed to hold on to his position. Morris soon became involved, and after driving 3 abreast down the Hanger Straight, de Wit lost out to Conti and then Morris into the next corner. Unfortunately, de Wit then ran wide a few corners later, slamming into the barrier and ending his race. Kuijs' next target was Blair Disley, and after some side-by-side driving, Kuijs managed to outbrake the Australian to take 4th position. Miekkinen didn't hold his teammate up for too long, running wide into Brooklands, giving Kuijs 3rd place and leaving him with just 2 more rivals to dispatch. A cruel twist of fate for Jim Parizis had the Greek driver suffering an electrical failure while running what was clearly his best ever race. David Greco was also struck down by an electrical fault for the 2nd time in as many races. The pit stops made little impact on the top 5 drivers. Aksel Kirchhoff comfortably held on to a 3-second lead over Bono Kuijs, and Jaakko Miekkinen managed to slightly extend the gap back to Blair Disley in 4th. Dimitri de Matos continued to run strong in 5th, but Fredrik Nilsson's long pit stop put the Twister driver behind both of the McCourt cars. Mikko Puumalainen leapfrogged Dennis Howell for 6th, and further behind Lee Morris seemed to be getting into a good rhythm, passing Marco Conti on Conti's outlap and moving up into 9th position. While Morris managed to hold out in front of Conti for 10 laps, a small lapse of concentration from the Briton had him running wild in the arena section, handing 9th place back to the Too Fast For You driver. In 5th place, Dimitri de Matos was under all sorts of pressure from the two McCourt cars behind him. However, the Frenchman continued to drive with solid consistency, making no mistakes and giving Puumalainen no opportunity to pass. Eventually, it was the veteran Puumalainen who made a mistake, losing traction on the exit of the arena section and giving Howell 6th position. In the lead, Kirchhoff was slowly being reeled in by Huis, but with less than 10 laps remaining, it was going to be a tough task for Huis to find his way through. In 3rd, Jaakko Mykkänen was also struggling to maintain the gap back to Disley. The precision driver was concerned about his fuel level, and being unable to push his car to the limit, Disley made the pass into Maggers with just 5 laps remaining. After his slow pit stop, Fredrik Nilsson had spent the entire second stint chasing down the McCourt duo. And on the penultimate lap, Nilsson found his way right onto Puumalainen's rear wing. With a better run out of Copse, Nilsson cruised past Puumalainen to take 7th place. But on the final lap, a mistake from Nilsson gave Puumalainen another chance to take back his position. And while Nilsson kept ahead down the Wellington straight, Puumalainen nailed the outside of Brookmans to make an impressive overtake. Coming under a lot of pressure in the closing stages of the race, a.k.a. Kirchhoff kept his cool and crossed the line to take his first ever career victory, and becoming the first driver to break Bono Huis's dominance of the 2011 season. Bono Huis finished an amazing Grand Prix in 2nd despite starting in 20th position. Blair Disley rounded off the top 3, gaining his first podium in over a year. Jaakko Mykkänen finished in 4th for the 2nd time in a row, and Dimitri de Matos drove a spectacular race, holding on to 5th place ahead of Dennis Howell in 6th. Puumalainen crossed the line in 7th, just ahead of Nilsson in 8th, and Marco Conti equalled his best World Championship result, claiming 9th position. A quiet race for John-Eric Saxon ended in 10th, and Cyril Vermeulen made it back up to 11th after his first lap spin. Lee Morris finished 12th after a last lap tyre puncture, and a difficult weekend for GT Omega Racing ended with Alain Fourt in 13th and Renault Room in 14th. Despite finishing 2 laps down, World F1 drivers Tony Heikkinen and Luca Pecklad can take a lot of satisfaction knowing that they both reached the finish line in their first Grand Prix. To the driver standings, Huis of course remains easily in the lead with Mykkänen a long way behind in 2nd. Nilsson remains in 3rd place, and Kirchhoff's win has pushed him ahead of Puumalainen and Greco. Disley's podium has launched the Australian back up into the top 10 in 7th position. Saxon and de Wit have both dropped the place, and Moran and Tali remain tied for 10th. The Constructors has positioned again, extending their lead, albeit by 1 point over Twister this round. McCourt will need to achieve some strong results over the coming rounds to stay in touch with Twister, and there is still time for Too Fast For You to pull themselves back up into the top 3. Another solid result from both ATR and Netrex has the teams in 5th and 6th respectively. Aero F1 have dropped to 7th but are only 8 points behind ATR. The teams are now enjoying a month-long break before the next Grand Prix. The race of Germany will be staged at the Nürburgring and held on the 14th of August at 5:30 PM GMT. You can watch the race live as it happens at www.psrtv.com. We hope you've enjoyed today's highlights. I'm Liam Jenkins, and we'll see you next time for round 10 of the 2011 Formula SimRacing World Championship.